Hey, Shalom, I want to start off with souls by giving no praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, HaKadosh, double honors to the apostles of GMS, and honors to you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. This is a quick one. Inspired, but basically, brother sent a video of that geezer Fauci, and basically, he was getting his shot. And one thing that I observed was it getting this. No, he was after he got a shot. So you basically had the NIH, all of this sort of stuff, National Institute of Health stuff in the background. And one thing that caught my eye was the location, right, which is Bethesda, right, Maryland. Now, it caught my attention because, Bethesda is, something, a place mentioned in the scriptures, right? Bethesda being a Hebrew word, Beth, usually, goes back to the Hebrew, goes back to Bayath, which is house. So, for instance, Bethlehem, Bayath Lacham, house of, house, Lacham, bread, house of bread. Bethel, Bayath Allah, the house of God. So obviously Bethesda, which we're going to get into in a second, right? So this is the National Institute of Health, right? Located in, Bethesda, right? So I was like, what is that, right? And, one of the first places that you really see when you look, Bethesda Bible, right, is the pool of Bethesda, right, which says the pool of Bethesda was a pool in Jerusalem known from the New Testament story of Yahushua miraculously healing a paralyzed man. From the fifth chapter, so this place is a place of healing, right? So for them to put the National Institute of Health and a place named after a place known for healing, right? That one would think that that's would you call it, that's, oh, they did that on purpose, this, that, and the other, that was smart of them, quote unquote, if you will, right? Or to decide to put it there, right? Just from a tech thing, you've got Amazon, for instance, who they've got a service called EC2, and then when they hold conferences in London, right, they hold conferences in a place with the postcode EC2. So I was looking at all of that sort of stuff. So this is from the fifth chapter of Gospel of John, where it describes as being near the sheep gate, surrounded by five covered colonnades or particles. It is now associated with the site of a pool in the current Muslim quarter of the city, near the gate called the Lion's Gate, right? So you see some images there, right? So then we look into what that word there means, Bethsaida. You click it up here. He in John 5 and 2 basically says Bethsaida, house of mercy or flowing water, the name of a pool near the sheep gate in Jerusalem, right, whose waters had curative powers, right? So they put this place, which is about health, in a city named after this place known for healing, known for mercy, this and the other. And it made me think of how this devil really, well, maybe think of this scripture, Psalm 50 and 16. So, but unto the wicked the most I say, what is thou to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in my mouth, right? Because once again, when we think of healing, we know where the healing comes from. We know about health, right? We know what the scriptures say about health. For instance, let's grab this, for instance, right? This is Daniel 1 and 10. It says, and the prince of the Okay, yeah. It says, and the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, Daniel 1 and 10, and the prince said unto the eunuch, and the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your king and your drink, right? For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, which might know them better by their Babylonian names of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? It says, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servant. right? He consented. So basically, he was offered to eat the the king's meat, which you can expect that to be rich, if not containing a load of abominable meats, for instance, right? But basically, Daniel was like, look, watch this, right? We're gonna just eat pulses. Basically, if you will, like a vegetarian or vegan, whatever, right? Imagine something like that, right? But in its fullness, in its and so it says, so he consented to them in this matter. It says, and proved them 10 days, and at the end of 10 days their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat, right? So basically, they ended up looking healthier than everyone else that was around them, right? But then you look at, the typical American diet, right? I remember I was with a brother the other day, just and he was talking about how, in the States you got them hats, right, with two bloody drinks, like fizzy drinks on each side and a straw, so you can drink. You can. It's too lazy to even carry the drinks. You put it on your hat, and then you have a straw coming from them. It's just that's the madness that goes on there. But that was one of the curses, right? Not whoops, that was one of the things that were prophesied for to come. Wrong direction. This is Ezekiel 4:13. Says, and the Lord, says, and Yahweh said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, where I will drive them. So right in this kingdom, we're eating abominable food. Where the food we're eating, you can't even call it food, right? The food has lost its strength because you have a man in power who isn't following any of the laws, to govern, what do you call it? To govern, what's the word I'm looking for? The land, the land Sabbath, how to deal with the animals, right? How to deal with your beast, right? Scripture says, uh, let me grab that first, actually. Um, Proverbs 12:10, right? It says, a righteous man regardeth the life of his beast. So, and that's Israel, right? You think about how we treat our animals. What do what is Israelite is right, man? Let me put it like that. We deal with our animals right? We have certain laws in the scripture, for instance, don't muzzle the ox, right, when he's doing the work, because at the end of the day, he's got to eat, right? Wanting to do a job, he's got to eat, right? Yeah, if you're at work, you're gonna have a lunch break, things like that. How to treat your animals, right? We regard our beasts. We're not just gonna, how Esau has these factory farming, man. The animals have no bloody space to do anything. That's not our style, right? But goes on to say, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. So the way, when this man is trying to be tender, that's his naturalness is to be cruel, right? Just sort of like how he might get these, I mean, let me not get into that, right? But the point I wanted there is that a righteous man regardeth the life of his beasts, right? As Isaiah 24:5, the earth also was defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Right, so this earth is defiled. So that means the food is defiled, the air is defiled, the water is defiled, and the food that we have, the herbs, whatever, what have you, right? Yeah, it's good to take them. We're gonna get scriptures on that, later on, right? It's good to take them, but it's not like before where you have, you take the herbs and it's going to be immediately, it's just going to be beneficial after some prayers, right? Now it's like these herbs ain't even of their full strength, okay? This is because they have transgressed the laws. Once again, one of those laws is the land Sabbath, okay? You farm for 6 years, on the seventh year you leave it, right? Even when you plant a new whether it's a vineyard or any crop, but you don't take the first 2 years, if I'm remembering correctly, right, to harvest. You leave that, right? And that's sort of showing faith. That's the first thing, showing faith that the Lord's going to come back and give you the increase later on, right? But it's also going to have a benefit to the plot of land, right? But this man, does he deal that way? No, right? This man just does whatever the hell he wants, right? Name and place after the scriptures and all of that, but rather name and place after place mentioned in the scriptures, but this man follows nothing in the scriptures. Okay, so I'll read Psalm 50 and 16 again. But unto the wicked the Most High saith, what hast thou to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Right. For instance, he's trying to do all of his healing and his health by ways of carnality. But in this particular instance where Bethesda is mentioned, right, what happens? It's all miraculous, all of this spirit. So I'll read that real quick, because John 5 and 1, it says, and this there was a feast. After this there was a feast of the Jews, and Yahushua went up to Jerusalem. It says, now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, which, as we read there, is a house of mercy, right, or flowing water. It says, having 5 porches. It says, in these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season in the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. Right. So this is also going into how in the ancient world there was a certain level of understanding of spirituality. Right, because if you was to tell this, mention this today, you mean to tell me all of that rubbish, right? But yes, we do mean to tell you, because that is exactly what the scriptures say happens. And we believe that, right? And we believe that this level of spirituality is coming back into the world, right? The Lord's going, well, the first part of it is Lord's giving us the understanding of these scriptures, when really, it's a miracle we know what we know. Okay, but there's going to come a time when the Lord is going to give us the power to heal. Why? Because as scripture says, Yahushua said, rather, these things that you see me do, you shall do, and greater. It says, verse 5, it says, and a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. When Yahushua saw him lie and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he saith unto him, wilt thou be made whole? And the impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man, when the water is troubled, to put me in the pool. But while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. Yahushua saith unto him, Rise, take up thy bed and walk. And immediately the man was made whole and took his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. So just like that, Yahushua said, walk, and he walked. And that was it. I'm trying to see whether so he wasn't able to walk properly for 38 years. Now, something I will speak on is something called muscle atrophy, right? atrophy, right, I believe. Right, and that's basically the wasting away of your atrophy, something like that. But basically, it's a word that describes the wasting away of your muscles. So you see someone who's been in a coma for a while, their legs are skinny, they're tiny, and then they have to go through rehab to walk again. But with Yahushua, none of that. Yahushua just said, and it was so. Right? Imagine, not having walked for 38 years, you're not going to be able to walk properly. Even these so-called astronauts, when they, they say they come back down to the earth from the ISS or whatever, right? Whether they're even up there, we don't know, but, they say they are, right? But whether they, even they have to be helped to walk when they land back on earth. But the Lord, he just made it so, just like that, okay? And that's the spiritual side of things, right? Is Esau pushing anything spiritual? No. Right? His whole thing is carnality. His whole thing is destruction, right? This is Sirach 38 and 1. It says, honor a physician with the honor due unto him, for the uses which he may have of him, for your Lord hath created him, right? So a physician, one who's understanding of the herbs, right? And it's a great honor because not everyone understands the herb. That's the Lord has put that kind of spirit on you, right, to truly be able to get into it. Now, should we know basics? Yes, of course, we should all know some basics, right? Verse 2, so for of the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the king. And that's ultimately where the healing comes from, because you can take all the herbs you want, right, but without prayer, without faith, the Lord ain't gonna heal it. Right? And sometimes the Lord might, hit you with an infirmity, right, as with Paul, right, just to, to keep us humbled. And that's just it, right? It says, verse 3, it says, the skill of the physician shall lift up his head, and In the sight of great men he shall be in admiration. Right, the Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. Right, and so this is uh, what's the word I'm looking for? This is where how we look when when we have ailments, we look at what herbs we can take, this and the other, and how it's going to benefit us. E, on the other hand, right, he will just what do you call it? He'll just abhor them. That's what it is. Right? It says, "He that is wise will not abhor them; he that is unwise will abhor them." Right? He rather will give you all of these petrochemicals which are destructive unto you. Right? Put all of these different chemicals, and ultimately you don't know what is in there. Which is why with the current situation that we're all going to be presented with, whether we take his thing that he's offering or not, right? We don't know what's in there. That could be anything, right? Which is why hey, you know our stance. I ain't gonna say anything before Esau cuts the clip, but you know, yes, it goes on to say, verse 5 says, "Was not the water made sweet with wood, that the virtue thereof might be known?" And a brother did a video on this. I forgot the name of it. Basically, he broke down the sea. He had like murky water, broke down, and he had this wood, this plant seed or whatever. He crushed it down, had it like in powder form. Maybe he bought the powder form, and he basically put it into the murky water. And then after a while, the water got clean, right? But the water became drinkable, right? And that is the power of the Most High. That is the power of the natural order of things, right? So, like I said, just a quick one, something that caught my attention. As always, Lord's will that was edifying to you. Until the next time, I'm gonna say Shalom.